first question I want to ask you is your comment on the importance of translation in a multilingual nation like our own.
So translation is very important because there is so much of literature and poetry written in different languages of India, which those who do not have access to that language, who do not understand it or do not read it, cannot enter that world or cannot access that body of work. So that is where translation comes in. And it opens to you not only, it gives you a sense of history, geography, and anthropology, because and as well as the emotions of that particular time. So it's very important.
Now, you are the language expert for Urdu. Could you give us a sense of what Urdu nonfiction has been like, the landscape of that since 1850, texts that might be relevant to translate now, etc.?
Urdu was the language of at least northern India. And I'm talking of the northern subcontinent. I won't even say India. I'm talking of undivided India. So say from the 19th century onwards, when Urdu started becoming popular, it was read and it was the language that was used by everybody living in North India. Of course, I won't include South India, and people did use their regional languages there. So whether it was Punjab or it was Delhi, this was the language people thought in, wrote in, and expressed themselves in. Now, this is also a period of history which we do not know much about, because this is the time when we also had the first War of Indian Independence or the uprising of 1857, whichever way you look at it. And after that, things changed. There was a certain distance came between different communities, and as you know, colonialism, we became a colony and a part of the British Empire. So at that point of time, and then there was a certain attempt to divide and rule. It's a very famous, I'm saying it very easily, but it's a very it's a thing that's been written much about, that distances were created between communities because it became easier to rule. One of the lessons of 1857 has been quoted by British historians that they realized that all communities can come together to fight them. So whether it was the religious communities, classes, and caste, all of them came together in 1857. So that was something they wanted to stop. And after that, there was Now, one of the first projects of translation that I took up was this book called Bazm-e-Akhir and Dilli Ka Aakhri Deedar. Bazm-e-Akhir is written in 1885. The writer Munshi Faizuddin says that he is one of the few survivors of 1857 who had seen life in the court, in the Mughal court. So he has been commissioned to write this book before everybody who had first-hand knowledge of the Mughal court passes away. And in that, he described the society, which is, of course, that it is, this Mughal Empire is tottering, the British are ruling. It is the East India Company, which calls the shots. And the king is now called the King of Delhi. He is no longer the Mughal Emperor. He has become the King of Delhi. But he talks of a very vibrant society where communities are living together very happily and in harmony. And he describes, celebrations such as Raksha Bandhan, which is called Salona, in the Mughal court. He talks of Diwali, Dasehra, he talks of Eid, he talks of Bakrid, Nowruz. All these festivals are being celebrated inside the Mughal court, which is something when you see today, people will, negate. They'll say, no, nothing like this could have ever happened. So it is very important to translate and bring to the general public these stories, because they run counter to what is being said today. The other genre that I would love to see translated, and which is the travelogues. Because from the 19th century, 1830s onward, this genre started. People started going to Europe. Now, a person traveling to Europe is going there as a part of, the British Empire. And for him, the impressions that he gets there and he transcribes and he writes about are very different. Because for him, there was this one, I'll just quote from this, Ajaib-e Farhan by Yusuf Kambal Posh is the first real travelogue of Urdu literature, and the author traveled to England in 1837 and spent 9 months in journey. So, his book is called Tarikh-e-Yusufi. It describes how he would have traveled. It would have been by ship. And so these become very important, not just as a piece of literature, but also as a piece of history.
I wonder if you might also be able to guide perhaps first-time translators into where they'd be able to find these texts. So non-fiction, Urdu, post-1850, as you said, that was your first translation also. How did you find the book itself?
These books are all available in Urdu Academy. Delhi has published a lot of these books. Reprinted, I should not say published. They've reprinted these books. And these are all, is one thing that a translator has to worry about is copyright. So most of these books are out of copyright, so that you don't have to worry about. But if if you're translating something written in recent years, then you have to take permission from the author or his estate. So Urdu Academy has done this, and apart from that, almost every book written in the past 100, 200 years is available on ebooks of Rifta. So you can go look at it, see which book you want to translate, and then try and source it. Now, I live in Delhi, so I am fortunate in that way that Jama Masjid has, in front of Jama Masjid, there are 4 or 5 very big Urdu. Not only has a huge selection, but also gets them for you. If you tell them that this is what I want, then I have also, done a lot of foraging in the मार्केट जो दरियागंज में अब तो बंद हो गया किताबों का एक बाजार लगता था ना दरियागंज में so you would get a lot of old Urdu books from there, purchase some books from there which I've still got kept कि अच्छा इसको कभी ना कभी translate करूंगी, so those are also kept. So you can and don't, my advice to young translators, new translators, I'm not talking in age in terms of young as in terms of age, but to people who are starting on translation, very popular choices, but go for what you feel will also represent that era. Like, for example, this Dilli Ka Aakhri Deedar, it talks about the Phool Walon Ki Sair. Now, Phool Walon Ki Sair, which still continues to date, started in sometime in 1820s, is a beautifully syncretic festival which showcases actually the pluralism of India. So, it gives you a very nice description of, खाना क्या खा रहे हैं, कपड़े क्या पहन रहे हैं, कहाँ जा रहे हैं, गाना, बजाना, सब कुछ. So, like all these also need to be celebrated. Not just the darker side or the, the Ramzada side. Partition literature, it's so tragic. There's so much of partition literature in Urdu also. So, apart from that, as I said, we need to also talk about the joyousness of the literature and the richness of the culture also. So travelogues, memoirs, then satire, then of course look at the society as it was then in all, whether it was 19th or 20th century, all these need to be talked about.
Okay. So thanks very much for that list of genres also that people could look into. Could you make a comment on the NIF Translation Fellowship program and your own role in the Language Expert Committee? What your hopes would be from this venture?
First of all, I'd like to congratulate you on this new venture of New India Foundation. The translation from the fellowship sound very, very exciting because they are going to provide the resources to the person who's translating and investing their time. And in some way make it easier for them, and especially when you have a panel which is going to help guide them, that is also going to result in a lot of meaningful translation, because it's a lonely process and it's a very tedious process also. Yes. So I'm looking forward to whatever comes out of this. Another thing I'd like to talk about is the script, it's called Rasmul Khatam Urdu. While Urdu words themselves are very popular, whether it is in cinema, in serials, in even our common conversation every day, the script is getting lost somewhere. And that is also because it is not being taught, it is not being actively pursued. And we are all reading it in either Roman transliteration or in Devanagari. But the script itself is very important because there is in Urdu, the pronunciation is very important. Just a slight difference of, like lehza and lehja. Now, lehza means moment. Lehja means tone, pronunciation. There's just a difference of in Urdu of whether you're saying jim or you're saying z. So now another word is sahi. If written with badi he, it becomes correct. If it is written with that latakni he, then it becomes different. Jaise ranjish hi sahi means of course. So, these things, these nuances cannot come unless you know the script. So people who are involved in Urdu and in the Urdu world should also try to in some way preserve the script, because not only is the script important, it's the identity of a language. Because if we start writing it only in Devanagari, then there is no difference between Urdu and Hindi. It becomes one language. We can call it Hindustani. And the body of work, and that is why your translation project is so important, New India Foundation's translation project, because there is such a huge body of literature, of poetry, of historical accounts, memoirs, travelogues, etc., which need to be seen and read by people, and they can only be accessible to people either in translation or if you go and read the script yourself. So there's only that much that can be translated. So you must be able to read the script to be able to access it yourself.
Gee, I think an important point there about script and bringing the script in, not just in our writing, but also in digitizing the script so that it is easy to use on keyboards and on our online interactions as well in the digital world. Thank you very much. Any final comment?
All the best. Looking forward to this. All the best to you, to us, to everybody involved in the project, and to those who get selected for the fellowship.